What's going on? It's your boy, Matty Milligan, and this is episode number 11 of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. I am super excited because today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the big idea, aka the big marketing idea. I think this is probably the biggest and most important topic that you must understand in marketing. And when you look at all the classic marketers and advertisers and copywriters, all the legends that have existed, Ogilvy, Halbert, Claude Hopkins, they all talk about the big idea. And the big idea is really the main overarching concept of your campaign. It's not the product that you're selling. You should be selling some sort of unique product. That's more your offer. This is really the big sales message and really just the essence of what your campaign will be. And this is something it doesn't need to be a few words or a slogan. It can be something you need to explain though in usually 1 to 2 sentences. And you'll know it's a big idea because it'll shock you dead in your tracks. It'll stop you. It might be scary actually, because I know I've had some really big, crazy ideas and I'm like, okay, this is different and very unique. How would it work? And then I have a lot of false beliefs and objections. And that's another indicator that I usually have a really big idea. And a lot of people in marketing, I think, are so afraid to have these big ideas, especially if they work in larger advertising firms where there's so much pressure and there's a lot of stress and there's basically a high expectation that you're going to create something awesome and it's going to perform extremely well and succeed for that client. But a lot of people, from what I've noticed, they just don't have that willingness to test and fail and see different ideas. From what I've heard, the best copywriters usually have campaigns where anywhere from 30 to 40% of their big ideas will succeed. But it's really just having that big idea and then, again, coming up with the rest of the campaign. So kind of working through there, getting up with the headline and hook and main sales message for the big idea for what the campaign will be, and then maybe some sub points of that, and really just working on that. But this is one thing, again, that so many different people overlook. And there's actually a very good Gary Halbert quote that I love about the big idea, where he says, coming up with one good idea, if you implement it, big point there in brackets, is worth more than a lifetime of hard work. That in and of itself is pretty deep, right? So you can go out and have all sorts of different awesome businesses, but you can really do that. And I have a couple of clients right now where we have a couple of big ideas and we're running with them. And one of them, it's taken a lot of work to set up, several months in fact. But I think it's going to be one of those 2 comma club funnels, honestly. Like I deeply believe this. They talk about different opportunity levels. So you always want to be looking out for those level 10 opportunities. And some cases you might see them and be like, it's a 10, but then in reality, it's probably a 6 or a 7. But this is one of those where I'm like, okay, it's at least an 8 or a 9 for sure. I don't know if it's a 10, but it's definitely up there. And we have a couple of big ideas that we're working around. And it's definitely something that the market hasn't seen before. So in a very kind of red oceany industry. So this is something original that we've come up with, but I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'll share more in the future about how that works out. But if you think about this though, a lot of people come to me because they're building funnels, they're running ads, they're trying to write awesome copy, they need to get more clients, they need to get more consulting clients, they need to get more clients for their manual service business, whatever that looks like. And essentially what ends up happening is I'll look at it and be like, okay, well, there's no big idea behind this. Like the market's already seen what you're talking about here. It's like if I were to go out right now and try and sell Shopify drop shipping, the market has seen that so much for the last 4 or 5 years, so that's done. I would have to have a very unique perspective and come in with a very unique and different angle that the market hasn't seen before. But at the same time, big ideas don't just hit people on that logical level. They hit them on an emotional level, like a compelling level. And again, it's always something unique that the market's never seen before. Because when you look at advertising, in the past. In fact, I did this recently. I looked at some ads from the 30s and 40s, and they just make such simple claims. It's like bran cereal made with bran. It's like bran is good for you. And you see that and you're like, what? Like this claim is just so generic. And then I'm sure someone else there could be like, oh, has more bran than them. And then again, it's just that sophistication in the market that keeps happening. But now because people and in the markets see so many different claims and they've seen so many things, you have to come to them with a very big idea. And ideas are really what sell. There's a great book I recommend called Made to Stick by Chip Heath. I totally recommend. And it's all on this idea of big ideas and which ideas go. But I never like to have people vote on big ideas by telling me what they think are the best ideas in terms of advertising, because people will tell you one thing, but the only thing that I really trust with people is how they vote with their credit card. So don't let people tell you it's a good big idea. You can come up with it yourself, and again, you have to have the chills and go through all of that stuff, and again, it has to be something very disruptive that the markets haven't seen before in terms of the messaging and the way you communicate it with your audience. But it really is like the most important part of your entire campaign. And again, I don't say funnel, I say your campaign. It's everything that your campaign is built around. It is the absolute crux. And if you don't get this right, it's going to be difficult. I think David Ogilvy had 5 other points as well. I can probably try and pull those up right now, but he talked a lot about this as well with the big idea 5. He had 5 things that he talked about where I think you need 4 of them. And let's see, I think I just found them right here. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so again, here we go. Number 1 is, oh, here we go. Let's move this down. I'll go over here. Yeah, so number 1 is, did it make me gasp when I first saw it? Okay, so like I was saying, did it give you chills? Did it scare you? Was it something shocking that you've never seen before? So that's a very important part. Number 2 is, do I wish I'd thought of it myself? So again, that's something where I'm sure you've seen that. I know I was aware of Shopify and dropshipping, but I remember when I invested in my first e-commerce course, their messaging was a little bit different from what I'd seen before in the course. I don't quite recall what the big idea was behind that, but again, that was something where, yeah, it really needs to just be something that you've thought of yourself. Because I wish I'd come up with the term Shopify dropshipping, because I'm sure I would have made a lot of money doing that. All right, number 3, is it unique? So again, I talked about that before. Is it something different that the market hasn't seen before? Does it stand out? Is it kind of like an orange hat in a crowd wearing green shirts, right? Does it stand out from everything else? Is it appealing? And then number 4, he lists here, does it fit the strategy to perfection? Again, it's part of the strategy, right? A funnel isn't going to make up, or a headline or an ad or any sort of copywriting is not going to make up for an initial bad idea. It's not going to make up for that. You can tweak all those back-end things, but the big idea is super important. And then finally, number 5 that he has here is, could it be used for 30 years? So I'll give you a perfect example of this. There's this candy that I used to eat back in the day, and I'm not a big candy person. I do love chocolate, specifically Lindt chocolate, but that's a whole other story. So with Skittles, I remember their slogan is "Taste the Rainbow." It's probably one of the most genius ideas ever because it's multicolored, and it's something where, because the candy itself has never really changed for however long they've been in business, probably 50, 60, 70 years at this point, that's something that's really lasted a long time because, again, Taste the Rainbow will be around for a really long time. And now, because of a lot of these, I guess, like LGBTQIAP communities, Skittles even has more power these days with that same thing. Even though that was written a long, long time ago by a genius copywriter with a big idea, that's something, again, that existed for a long time. So you need to be thinking of ideas like that, right? And again, this is something where when you have that one big idea, it's something you can use over and over and over in your advertising. Sure, the times will change in terms of the way people dress and certain phrases people say and different social views, but overall, if you can come up with that big idea that can somehow last a span of a long time, that is really what's going to set you up for long-term success. And again, focus your life on looking for that one big idea, not in trying to find out and create 100 different small ideas or even decent ideas. It's really something where you need to tell something, you need to have those big ideas because those are really what's going to grab people's attention. And you know that attention spans are going down more and more every single year. I think it's, 5 or 6 seconds right now. I'm sure in a few years it'll be 2 or 3. People don't have that much attention. So if you have an original idea and you can put it in front of them, and again, if it's something that challenges their current belief system, if it's appealing to them on a very intellectual level, as well as an emotional level, and it promises them something big, then ultimately they're going to want to see the rest of your marketing campaign. So I would work on, instead of trying to build the best funnel in the world, trying to write or be the best Facebook ads expert or copywriter or salesperson, try and think of that one big idea. Always have it on your mind. One thing I do is that I've really started recently is I've started walking around with a little notebook. And I'll just start, it actually has the words effing brilliant on it in the front, which is funny because I'll be at the coffee shop working or reading and people will see it and just give me this weird look. But it's something where I've just started jotting down ideas in. And I've had a couple of good ones since I've got that book. So it would be something I would recommend investing in $5 to $10 in a little book where you can just write down your awesome ideas. So that's all we're going to talk about today, but I think this was a super important episode that I really just wanted to touch upon further. And if you want me to talk about this more in the future, just let me know. You can comment below wherever you're listening to this podcast episode from, whether it's iTunes or Spotify or SoundCloud, or if you're watching the actual video that I post on YouTube. And for those YouTube viewers, you might notice that I'm actually not in the underground. I'm in the overground on the 3rd floor of my home. And in the background there you can see, there's a Leafs poster. So I'm working on this set as well. And over on this side behind me that the podcast listeners can't check out, that you can go to YouTube and see, is where, I don't know what I'm going to put here. I had a light here. I had a calendar here. I just didn't like it. Calendar, I just like it there because my computer's here and I can just look at it faster instead of turning around and hurting my neck. But I was thinking about having something cool. I think eventually when I win my 2 Comma Club award, I think it's going on this wall, honestly, but in the meantime I'll probably put something else there. And that's all for today. Hope you really enjoyed this episode. Consider subscribing, and if you did like this episode, maybe consider going back and watching some of my previous episodes or listening to a few of the previous episodes where you'll see where I started out with this podcast originally 18 months ago, and I've really started shooting a lot more content and creating a lot more stuff for this, but I'd consider going back and finding a couple more episodes. And I will see you next time on the following episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Have yourself a wonderful one. Take care.